We are lucky to have another specialist from Bastion Shine who will cover digital marketing basics. Bastion Shine is a new generation consultancy. Its purpose is to create meaningful growth with best-in-class capability in areas including strategy, creative and design, communications and digital enablement. Jayden Szekely is a growth-focused digital marketing expert, web and performance strategist, and AI and automation consultant, and is currently leading the web projects at Bastion Digital. Impressively, he's been building websites since the age of 12 and had his first client at 15. It's a fast-moving space, and we look forward to hearing your growth-focused digital marketing advice, Jayden.
So I want to give you a high level of overview of what's happening in the space right now, just to kind of set an expectation of what you guys can be doing. In the past 24 months, we've seen a massive shift towards short-form content, as we just explored. We've seen things like AI disrupting the space to create content easier and faster, to unleash your creativity in a way never seen before. We've also got things like your iPhone, how you can't get tracked as much anymore. So as marketers, it's a nightmare. As individuals, it's a great thing. So obviously there's a few things that have changed. And the final one is the uncertainty of what platforms are going to be around in 12 months. We're seeing a fast changing environment. We're seeing TikTok in the news going, is it going to be around much longer? We don't know. We've also seen things like emerging platforms. We've seen Be Real come, we've seen Clubhouse come and definitely go. And we've seen so many other platforms in our world. So today, where's my clicker? Here it is. We're going to be diving into a few key topics. First of all, is I want to explain of how you can get into the mindset of a marketer, how you can think like a marketer. Now, the reason for this, above any other practical advice I can give you today, is if you can understand how to get into the mind of your consumer, your customers, the people buying your products on shelves or on your website, you can do so much more than what I could share in 45 minutes. Secondly, we're going to be talking about some growth marketing ideas. So growth marketing is traditional marketing focused on fast action, an iterative approach, and it's also looking at things in an unconventional way. Because as small businesses, we all know how hard it is to compete against the big guys who are in the same field as us. And then we're also going to look into some practical fundamentals, so things like social, expanding on that. We're looking at paid media, so your ads. We're looking at search, so Google, Bing, Yahoo. We've got things like email, SMS, instant messaging, CRM, your client relationship management, and also your website. So it's a lot to get through, so we're going to do more of a high level on those. The final one I want to get into is acquisition and retention, so getting new customers and making sure that they hang around. And then once we're finished with all that, if we've got time, I want to dive into a Q&A where we're going to take a few of your business cases and try and come up with a solution on the spot. So what that will do is kind of get into that mindset and kind of create an understanding of how to approach your marketing. The key thing that people in this room are really excited about is you have the most advantage over most other industries, and that the way you work now is most similar to marketers than you think. You have a very test and learn approach. When you learn how to make a new dish, you're always tasting it, right? You're saying, oh, too much salt, not enough salt, too much sugar, not enough sugar, not to get the two confused. You're also looking at things like, oh, what's the reaction of someone trying my new dish in my restaurant? What's the reaction of someone, if you've got a beer, opening it up? What's their reaction and their impressions? You've also got the final piece, which is you are really great at understanding the full experience. You've got an understanding of what someone's thinking when they walk into your restaurant, how you can best serve them, how you make them happy throughout their meal, and when they leave, you have an understanding of how that went, right? So that's a really great advantage that you have. So what differentiates a great marketer from the rest? And I think it comes down to 3 points. First of all, it's understanding patterns, understanding behavior, understanding how Sally thinks differently to Jim, understanding that when you walk into a room and you have a conversation with someone, you can tell what they're feeling. You can understand what interests them, what preferences they have. And so when you can put that all together, you can understand them and understand their patterns. So if we know that Sally comes in every single Tuesday, we know that she's going to sit at the same table she sits at every single time. She's going to order probably the same thing after looking at the menu for half an hour saying I need 5 more minutes. The second thing is having an affinity to getting into the mindset of them, right? So if someone's coming into your restaurant or buying your product, why are they there? Are they just there for a convenience? Are they there for going and socializing? Are they there because they want the full experience and that's what they love doing? And so if you can understand that, you can apply that logic to your marketing. Understanding what someone's going to do when they see a piece on your social content, see a bit of content on your social profile, what they're going to do when they see an ad, how they're going to respond to an email, what are they trying to understand when they go to your website. So it's just getting in their head, thinking of people as people, not as people that you're targeting, right? So if you want a conversation with someone, it's going to be a lot different than amplifying that one message. And the final one here is connecting the real world and the digital. That's the biggest thing great digital marketers can do. They can understand what makes someone tick offline, what makes them go to certain places, and they can use that full picture to come together and make a solid profile which they can put in their digital marketing. There's an old homage that I love to listen to, and it's people buy from who they know, like, and trust. So what that means is if you have two neighbours that are both real estate agents, one has been amazing, he's mowed your lawn when you're sick, versus the one on the left who doesn't even say hello, he doesn't keep his property nice, and he's always putting his rubbish in your rubbish bin instead of buying his own. Who are you going to go to if you need to sell your house? You're probably going to go to the agent that has actually invested in you, that you know, that you like, and through your conversations you trust. So that same thing comes from sales. Who are you going to buy something off? You're going to buy something off someone that you know really well, have a great, meaningful relationship with, or are you going to buy off some total stranger? Third part of that is trust, which really just comes in building that ongoing, always showing up, always delivering, never backing off, always going full in. The final piece I've got here, which expands on this, is connect with. In 2023, we've got an interesting opportunity. We have a world that is focused on amplifying and pushing out a narrative and not enough on actually engaging with their community. Now, I know Joe and Dylan, the last session, for those of you that were here, talked about the importance of replying to comments and replying to messages, but also the fact that if you can show up first before they have to do something, so if you can see, I'm scrolling through and there's a post and hashtag vegan, if you're a vegan, right? So you're going through there and you're a vegan restaurant. If you're commenting first, going, oh my gosh, it looks amazing, even if it's not your restaurant, you communicating with them, showing up first, shows that you're putting in the work, not just trying to take business. And so all of this comes down to 3 key points. Having empathy, engaging through communication, and building relationships. Empathy, understanding what makes them tick, understanding why they're there, understanding what they're trying to get out of engaging with you on social, engaging on your ads, visiting your website, email. Communication, it comes down to not just amplification, as I've said multiple times, but if you just keep pushing stuff out versus communicating back and forth in a feedback loop, you're never going to build any real relationships, which is the third part. And I think, actually, if I go back, I don't know if I can on this. Okay, great. One final piece to consider is, why do you, I don't know, how many people on here are regular coffee drinkers? They go to their same coffee spot every single day. Okay. If I asked you why you go to that same spot every day versus some other place, it's number one, is you get to know the owner of the establishment, right? You get to know about their family. You get to know about why they're in business. You get to understand, little things about their process and have more than just small talk. You get to actually have a meaningful conversation to start your day. Versus if you go to a place like Starbucks. Everyone loves Starbucks, said no one ever. The beauty of that is you'll go in, you'll be asked for your coffee order. They don't know it because they don't have a one-to-one relationship. And then they're going to ask you your name. They're going to give you a cup that says Sandra instead of Sally. And you're going to go like, I don't feel heard. I don't feel like I've had a full conversation. So the difference there is that communication and that relationship just adds so much more value to you. Okay, now I'm actually going to the slide. Who here has heard of the concept of growth marketing or growth hacking? Just to cool, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, amazing. So I'll give a high-level summary of what this actually is. It's a repositioned view on marketing. It's not focusing so much on the softer metrics like likes and engagement, although those are important for social to understand if it's hitting a mark. But what it does is this adding to your bottom line as a business? Is what you're doing resulting in more people coming to your store? Is it people buying more of your products online? So all to say is it focuses on end results. Secondly, it's focusing on refining and testing, so not being afraid to put something out, as Dylan and Joe just talked about. But if you can get into the mind of these people and you're not afraid to try having 50 pieces of creative, now that's a lot, but 50 pieces of creative that are totally different, and you can see, oh, it's interesting, someone clicked on the pink one more than the blue one, even though it's exactly the same. That sort of stuff is growth marketing. So it's not being afraid to push the boundaries a little bit, and it's understanding what people are doing. The third one is trialing things that focus on getting wins. That's things like loyalty. It's things like affiliate programs. It's things like work that what you do brings itself in automatically. So if you do one piece of work and you amplify that to 10 customers, and then they take that and then they give that to their 10 friends. So it's that viral loop mentality, and that is growth marketing in its essence. The beauty here, just kidding, let's keep it there. What we've got is growth marketing is unscalable, right? In certain ways, it's unscalable. And I think for you as small businesses, that is your best advantage. I think if you come from a mindset of, I've got, let's say you're the only marketer, okay, who here has a marketing team? Okay, cool. And the rest of you are the marketer and the operator or something like that, right? So what you don't have is a lot of people to do the same sort of work as the larger teams, right? So you're not going to go out and you're not going to go and compete with the biggest brands in the country. You're not going to go and, if you're a small burger shop, you're not going to go and compete with McDonald's. Not the same thing, but you get the point. So what that means is you need to think unscalable. So what are you going to do that they're not going to do? You've got an audience of 1,000 people. McDonald's has an audience of hundreds of millions. So they cannot do the same things that you can do. So is it going proactively, and is it engaging on things on different social platforms before they engage with you? Is it things like popping up a thing outside and then doing some content with those people, or competitions, or going and doing something a bit guerrilla, which is UERI, which is more about doing stuff that is outside the status quo. And so I think a great example of this is if you think about a rugby field, right? We're all on the same playing field now. There's no such thing as small businesses on one end of the spectrum and big businesses on the other. You're all on the same platform. You've all got access to the same tools, the same technologies and everything. Of course there's time, of course there's things like that. But if you think about the All Blacks playing a team like Croatia, we all know who's going to win, right? And so what you can do is you can think about, if Croatia has a chance at winning, they're not going to go and copy the exact same things that the All Blacks are doing, because we all know that it's going to end badly. So what they're going to do is they're going to go, okay, well, instead of just going straight down the middle and hoping that we can sidestep one of the best, forwards or backs, whatever. I don't play rugby. That's obvious. But what we can do is we can go, okay, so there's an opening over in that little gap in the far corner. So if I kick it over there and one of my wingers is going to go for it, that's an opportunity versus going straight down the middle. So if you look for all the cracks that the other businesses are not doing, that is where you can win. And so it's cheeky things that are out of the blue and unpredictable. The other one here is you need to focus on high impact activities that only require time. So high impact activities versus lots of small pieces. How do I explain this? High impact activities are things that require little resource, big output. So little things like doing a social post and boosting it. low impact, high impact, because lots of audience with very little time. Things like setting up a little thing outside your shop, right? Something that's different. It's not just putting a sign out and hoping people walk in. Is it someone standing out there, hey, we've got a great coffee offer right now. Why don't you come in? You're walking past, we don't know you. You look like a great guy. You can need something warm on a cold day. Come on in. Those sort of things just move the needle. So I want to take all this, lots of things to think about, lots of ways you can approach your marketing, and I want to bring it into the practical fundamentals that we have. And I want to treat this as a guide, as a way to help you navigate all the options out there, not as a do this, do that, here's how you get 5-minute abs. What it is not a roadmap, here is a physical map, and I want you to use a compass, and you need to figure out where you're heading. So we've got 6 pieces here. We've got social, we've got search, we've got paid media, we've got web, we've got email and SMS and instant messaging, and then we've also got CRM. Now that's a lot to get through. And for time, I'm going to keep this at a high level versus going super deep into this. The key thing to remember is what you need to focus on really depends on your business. Okay, so not everyone needs to have an amazing SEO or search engine strategy. Not everyone needs to have an amazing paid strategy. Not everyone needs to go after doing things like social SEO. Not everyone needs to go after having an amazing email list. You need to understand what engages with your audience, and then you can choose where to explore. So for example, if you're a restaurant, you're going to go after things that focus on the intent of the demographic. If you want someone that's trying to figure out where they're going to go for dinner, you're probably going to go more Google sort of vibe, versus if you're going for, hey, I want to get people to come more naturally. You've got to think about people. They're not going to, if you have a high-end establishment or something that's more sit-in, and it's more of it's a thing to do versus a quick, let's find a takeaway meal, you're going to want to build a stronger profile on social, doing things like social SEO, which is making sure you show up on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube, and YouTube Shorts when you search for Restaurant Wellington. How do you show up? Third one we're going to touch into quickly is paid media. And so with paid media, there's obviously lots to cover, but how can you, we'll get to this in a moment, but the main thing is understanding what makes people do what they do, what makes people click, what makes people engage with your brand on an ongoing basis. So when you display an ad, what's the actual ask you're asking of them? What's the transaction there? We've got things like email and also content and web, but I want to get into those quickly. Let's just jump through it. Who here has, and as Dylan and Joe just talked about, who here has searched on a social platform like TikTok, on Instagram, or anything like that in the past 6 weeks? Okay, look around the room for a second. If we keep those hands raised, we can see that it is predominantly a younger demographic, predominantly female, right? So we can understand, love you, Dylan, but what we can do there is we can understand the demographics here. Now, out of this group here, and I want to go thumbs up and thumbs down. Thumbs up if you would rather search for something on a social platform versus searching for things on a traditional search like Google or Bing. So thumbs up for social, thumbs down for old school Google. Okay, now look around the room again, keep those raised. Do you see the different demographics here? Yeah, okay. So what that shows is that the younger people have changed their consumer behaviors. So all the advice that you've probably seen in the past 5 years, you need to rethink that. Your marketers that are telling you you need to go all in on Google and your demographics 18 to 23-year-olds, it's not going to work, right? So you need to be showing up in ways where your audience is. So if your people are on Facebook, by all means, go hard on Facebook. If your demographic is still opening every single email, go hard on email. If they're people that are very much transaction quick-based, okay, cool, Google and Bing. But the main thing I want to get into is social SEO. So if we look at this, spot the difference. On the left-hand side, we've got TikTok search. On the right too, we've got Google. Can you see the differences? We can see that TikTok is very much a pulse. And that's what young people are loving. They're loving the fact that what they can, when they're trying to understand where they should be dining, they can see things that are relevant to them. And it's not structured in a way that's like a yellow pages. It's more like inviting a group of friends around and asking them, hey, where should I go for dinner? What did you like about certain places? What didn't you like? And so that's where social SEO comes in. Now it's actually very blurry by the looks here, but what you can see is on TikTok, the structure goes from 171 likes to 3,579 likes a second. So that just shows, number one, it doesn't matter how many likes you get, it's what's most relevant to you. Secondly, the dates here, right? The dates are all mixed up. What it is doing is it's looking for what is most relevant to your search query. The final thing I want to touch on is in the top right-hand example, you can see things like previews of what you're about to click into. Versus if you look over at Google, it's very much undefined. It's very much, here's a storefront, here's what we are as a business. It's not what you're going to experience. The second thing with Google, as you can see, as I mentioned before, it's ordered in a very hierarchical, I don't even know how to say that, order, which is most reviews to least, which means that if businesses have been around for 5 to 10 to 15 years, they're always going to be number one. But what that doesn't allow for is you as smaller businesses to compete, because you haven't been around for that long. There's no way that you're going to get to number one overnight, and that's not going to move the needle for your business. So that's why I'm really emphasizing the importance of social SEO for you guys. Now, in terms of social search, I do genuinely believe in the importance of it. That's my bread and butter as a job. I do help people increase the SEO and had done some really amazing results. But I want you to understand that it isn't for everyone. And so if you, I suppose as a supplier and people that are selling online as direct to consumer, it's super important, right? People are going to buy a product, you need to be able to show up. If you're a restaurant that's trying to be, get people to come, not so much. But if you are going in there, there's 4 key things I want to quickly touch on, and we'll move through it because I don't think it's relevant for the majority of this room. But all the algorithms, all the things that help prioritize what comes up first and what comes up last is 4 points. Number 1 is intent. What are you searching for? What's the question? Who are you as an individual? These algorithms are so smart that they can take your past search history, I know it's creepy, but they can take your entire search history and build a picture. There's no such thing as, I want to get on number 1 on Google. It doesn't exist anymore, okay? So if you are fighting for that, please just take a breath, go, okay, that's not going to work. I need to be focused on the multiple personas in my demographic. Secondly, content. What are you putting out? Now, especially nowadays, we've got a bit of a challenge where Google has just announced that they're going to take twice as long to make your content show up in an engine. They're going to take twice as long to index, which for small businesses trying to move the needle fast and trying to recover from the past few years isn't ideal. And so what you need to be doing is going, okay, I need to be making lots of content, and I wouldn't have said this 6 months ago, but with AI, with all these other amazing tools, you know, you've got ChatGPT, you've got things like Jasper and all these other AI tools which I encourage you to look at. It is so simple now to make content that if you are in the SEO game, there's no reason for you not to be posting content more than once a month, if not once a week, because it's simple as, hey, I want to write a blog post about this topic. Here is the intent of the people looking for my business. Here are the questions that they are frequently asking. And you can do that by using tools like Google's research and SEMrush and all those. But if you can be putting content together that speaks to those, it's going to be a lot easier for people to find you. Thirdly is authority. Now, Google doesn't just take your word that you're a great business. They like to paint a picture. They like to go, how many people are visiting this website? How many people are coming, linking to the website? So how many other websites and blogs and accounts are referencing your website and on their sites that have got high authority? How many people are engaging with your content for a longer period of time? So all that comes and it builds a great profile of, hey, this is a trusted business, and they do it on a scale of 1 to 100. So how trusted are you? That's important about building an online profile. That's doing things like if you get a negative review somewhere on a thing like Zomato or a thing like Google Business, if you don't reply to them, it's going to take that into consideration. So it's the importance of being showing up. It's the importance of being a good person. If you apply taking the same principles of what you would do if someone came up to you in real life and said, hey, it wasn't that great, or if someone came up to you and went, hey, that was amazing. So what it's doing is it's building that overall profile that you can be a trusted source of information for these people. The fourth one is quality, so that's how great your website is. Now that's around, is it responsive for mobile, which I hope all the websites in this room are. It's things like how fast does it load? Is it got accessibility standards recognized? So have all your images got alt attributes assigned to them, which help people with vision impairments access information. The final point I want to touch on before I move on from this is the impact of chat-focused search. So how many of you have seen what's happening in the search space in the likes of Bing and a few others where you are literally speaking to a chatbot to find out information? Hands up who's seen that? Okay, that's homework for you guys. But what that's doing is people are now, we're seeing a massive shift here. Google and Bing, so Bing's always been a small player. That we saw Bing's traffic increase by 5% in the first month of them having this, month one, and it's only access to a few people that signed up super early. We're seeing Google's traffic decline. And so what that means is people are wanting to interact in a way that's more conversational, like they would a real person. We're going from search terms like restaurant, Wellington, comma, vegan to, hey, I want to find a restaurant. These are my dietary preferences. This is the location I want to be in. I'm looking for this sort of vibe. Can you recommend me 5 different restaurants I want to be going to? That's the nature of search we're heading in. And so what that means is you need to be preparing your content to be analyzed by that. So we've got things like Reddit. Who here's used Reddit? We all know it's a horrible place to be on the internet, but what it is all these algorithms, 33% of the information is coming from Reddits with more than 5 upvotes or more, which means the importance of being on a place like Reddit is huge for your search. And then next side, we've got a quick thing I want to touch on, which is Google Business. There's one called structured data, which I encourage you to look into. But what we need to be doing is we want to make sure our information is easily accessible, easily understood by these robotic algorithms. So if you can tell an algorithm, hey, here is my menu, line by line. Here is the associated things with it. Is it halal? Is it gluten-free? So they can understand that. Here's my business. I am open between these hours. Here are some great photos. You can see the vibe of it because they can analyze the photos for data. And this is also great too, just something to consider, is they're bringing bookings and reservations to Google search. So you'll be able to go from a Google search, and I think I've got an example of what that looks like. Here we go. So you can see behind me, we've got your standard Google business listing, but you'll soon be able to book reservations straight from there without going to your website, without picking up a phone. So that's really important to consider, that you need to be prepared and start investigating things like structured data so you can make sure that you are appearing in that way. Final quick thing here. We've talked about the importance of building a great overall profile. The one thing to consider in this industry, in particular more than any other, is that the likelihood of an individual business showing up in the top 5 for any of these terms is near impossible unless it's brand related. So what you need to be doing is you need to be taking Joe's advice and reaching out to the urban list, like who we've got here in Wellington, Neat Places, TripAdvisor, Zomato, all those other places, because they're always, no matter how hard you try, always going to rank above you. So making sure that you're getting it in those places. Quickly talk on paid media. So we've all seen ads appear on our phones. We've all gone to Google and we've seen the little sponsored tag next to it. We've all gone to YouTube and watched the 5-second ads, which we try to skip through but never do, or then play another video afterwards. I've heard they're playing up to 10 videos before loading a video now, which is really scary. Please don't happen. But what that means is people are seeing ads more so than ever. gone are the days of you're driving your car and you see a little billboard over there and a billboard here and some crackly radio ad that's got a really cutesy jingle, and maybe one on the back page of the newspaper. But we're so accustomed to seeing ads more than any time in history that the importance of understanding how to stand out is really important. We also need to understand what is right for you. So are you focused on getting new business in? Are you focused on spreading brand awareness? Are you focused on making a transaction online? Are you focused on bringing people back that have already visited your website? So understanding those nuances is super important. There's also the value of testing. So as I said before, make sure to try lots of different versions, compare them apples for apples. And what that does is it allows you to see what's actually resonating with your demographic. And what that does is, an example I ran 10 pieces of the same creative at the same time, similar messaging, if not the same in some of these instances. All I changed was the imagery. All I changed was the color in these instances. I saw a cost per click go from $2.50 to 29 cents. That's the difference. So what that means is if your creative isn't hitting the mark and you're not testing it, you're essentially paying 10 times, if not 20 times as much for the same thing. We've also got things like defining audience. Today we've got the brilliant ability to go, I want to target someone that's between 20 and 25 that is in this position. They are living in this area. They like tennis as a hobby. They like this and they like that. You can paint a full picture versus the old days of, I need to speak to everyone. So really understanding if you can come up with 5 different demographics and different personas of people that come into your restaurant who buy your products online, you can really make a real impact with paid media. We've also got tracking attribution, so please make sure you're tracking everything. So what that means is adding the little, and when you're Facebook Meta Ad Manager, you can go, oh, I want it to have at the end of URL, it might be campaign 1 as the tag. And if you can understand what's actually driving the most ROI for your business, that is incredibly important. Because otherwise you're just going to be putting stuff out into the world and making assumptions without any hard data to work with. The final one is what I call the pink giraffe. What's going to make people stop and go, what the frick am I seeing, right? And so that is what I was talking about, the creative. And so that comes down to things like your imagery, which Dylan and Joe just went into. It's things like, are we looking at the first 3 seconds of a video, which are the most important, arguably. But it's also what differentiates you to every single ad that they're seeing. If you think about, 2 a.m., lots of you I see in this room have got probably the age where you've got some young kids. It's 2 a.m., you've been up all night crying or sick, and your eyes are half glazed over and you're scrolling through your phone mindlessly. What is going to make you stand out against all the other 20 ads, which are the most generic things on the face of the planet? And also writing your copy. Now, I'm not a copywriter by any stretch of the imagination, and I used AI to do this because it's not my strength. But what I did was, if I know that I need to stand out, if you talk to, zoom out. If you talk to someone in your shop, are you going to go to them, hey, we've got 10% off, it's great. Or are you going to go something that's more, hey, look, I understand that this is what, I can tell something about you. I can understand this, and I've got some passion, and I love my product, and it's great, and I think you're going to love it. It's the best thing in the world. It's a totally different form of language, and I think online we've shifted to be very blasé, here's some cliche offer, versus we need to make it like we would in real person, have some boom, have some emphasis, have some creativity, understanding their pain points. So look, if we look at that first example, 10% off the first meal, great, but there's nothing to you. I'm not going there anyway, so why would I want 10% off? Versus a symphony of European fusion. Okay, cool, so it's a European fusion restaurant, great. Drool emoji, it must be really good. Emoji stood out as well. Those always work, especially on search. But then let your first taste be free, be our treat. Well, what does that mean? And then underneath that, way too small a text, but you get the point. It says, don't let it go cold, timely, important. Time is a time frame. And then reserve your free entree now. So free, mint. Entree, something tangible for me to try. So what we've done there is, we've taken the idea of here's 10% off with a cute little picture to here's an enticing offer. Oh, I want to go try that. An entree, European fusion, wow. And so that's the real importance in a world of generic 10% off discount codes. Okay, so that's something I really want you guys to look into, is how you can make your offers more appealing. Quickly jump into web. How many of you guys are on the line? Okay, how many of you guys have, just so I can get gauges, how many of you guys have got Facebook and Instagram and TikTok profiles? Okay, so people that have websites, especially direct to consumer, e-commerce, but also local restaurants, they've got a few key things. If you're direct to consumer e-commerce, it's how can you make people comfortable to buy your products. But if you're a restaurant, which the majority of you, or bar or cafe, you're going to have a few questions. What time am I open? So you've got Google Business for that, sure. You've got things like what's in your menu, and if you display a PDF, turn off. But if we think about the intent of consumers, once you understand what people do on your website, you can design something that's great. And that comes from paid ads. You need to understand what the intent is, what the actual call to action is. You need to be designing for that. So an example of this is, how many of you are familiar with Carpety ice cream? Okay, great. So a while ago when we were asked to redesign their website, they're like, well, where do we begin? So we go through the analytics. We put a heat map tracking software so we can see what people are clicking, what they're doing. And the most commonly done activity on their website was people trying to find out what ingredients are in a product and what the nutritional information was. And so instead of putting it under, you went to click on a menu originally, then we clicked on all products, and then we filtered by, let's say, sorbet, and then we scrolled through a list of the different products, and then we clicked into it, and we had to scroll down, and then it was kind of jumbled. So we took that and we're like, well, if everyone's trying to do that, the majority of people are trying to do that, why are we hiding it? So what we did, we literally did a super simple thing. All we did, we put a search bar right underneath the tagline. And all that was they typed in a question, and in real time, it provided them the thing related to their search. And within one click, they had the information. So the point to that is, if you're a direct-to-consumer site, understanding what people are trying to do, make that simple for them. Don't try and put it under some cliche structure you've seen on 20 other websites. If your demographic is different, treat them as different people. If you're a restaurant, okay, straight up with the hours you're open and your dietary information. That's what people are trying to find out when they go to your website. They've probably seen your food on Instagram, but the only reason they're trying to go there, maybe booking a table, the only reason is if people got dietary restrictions or want a certain type of thing. You need to make it easy for them to find it. Okay, final thing I want to dive into quickly is email and SMS and CRM. So how many of you guys have got a CRM? 1, 2, you guys are together right in the same group? Yeah, okay, so 2 groups. So what that means, people here, it's basically your central hub of all your customer data. So it's, okay, you have 10 customers, right? I'm just 10 for an example. I want to be able to personalize all my content to them differently. Instead of sending out one email that says, hi, insert name here, wow, we've got a great offer right now, you should come down, we've just done some refurbishments, versus going, hey, Sally, oh, I really remember that you liked these 5 products in the last few times you come to our restaurant. This is some new things we've done with it. We've actually not got this dish anymore, but we've got a similar dish that is in a similar palette. All that sort of stuff can be done through a CRM. And the restaurant owners, cafe, how many of you got an RMS or restaurant management system? Okay, so that's the thing that people are booking, when they come in the restaurant and you're saying, oh, I want them to sit at this table and paying and your menu and everything, RMS. Most of these platforms now, you can actually hook up to your CRM. So you can go, if you have a way to understand who each people are ordering, you can take their dining preferences and you can actually add that to build a profile. So you can be going, oh, well, we haven't seen this person and this person and this person in a while. They normally come back in this cadence. Okay, so let's go, hey, we remember that you like this dish. Here is a free side, here's a free side of chips to go with your steak, right? So you can personalize your content. And that's the importance of a CRM. I know not many of us open emails, especially the younger of us these days, generally just swipe and goes to the archive or the junk. But what it does show is that if we can get into these places in a personalized way, we can make them click in, we can make them respond to a text, we can make them connect with us on an instant messaging thing like WhatsApp or Telegram or Instagram, all those sort of things. We can create personalized content to them, we can make it feel more engaged, we can use that data in our ads, we can use it everywhere. So the importance of building a profile with a CRM, I think, is probably one of the most important activities you guys can do to stand out from your rest of your competition. Too many of the people, potentially in this room, but especially out in the wider area, are focused on just social media, posting. But what they aren't doing is they're not going, I want to understand these people, I want to build a full picture, and I want to treat these as people. So that's where CRM really comes into play. Quickly to finish off, just want to touch on acquisition and retention. So who here knows the difference between acquisition and retention? Okay, so acquisition is the act of going after people. So going, hey, come into my shop, come in. Versus retention, it's like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while, do you want to come back? Like, we want to see you again. So that's the whole concept. The two differences. Acquisition is, if we look at again, not a fisherman, but an example that comes to mind is if you go crayfish fishing, right? You throw a cage over the side. And when you start to pull it back up, if more of the crayfish are falling out of that cage and actually staying in, that's a problem, right? Because you're halvening your impact. So if you can go, hey, I know that I've got 100 people coming to a restaurant a week. That's a small number, but 100 people. If I know that only 10 of them are going to come back in their entire lifetime, you've essentially just thrown away 90% of the work you've done to get them there. So if instead of a cost to get someone in a restaurant might have been $10, that's gone from $10 to $90, I think it is. So that's a massive increase, right? And so what we need to be focusing on our marketing is, okay, am I going to be just focusing on getting new people in and then eventually you run out of people to bring in? Or are you going to be focusing on bringing them back? So it's, if we think about the 1950s, you always went back to the same place because you had that relationship, the communication. You would think about if you walk into, if you see your local butcher down the street, you're walking past, and they go, oh, we just got this new prime rib or something in, right? You should come and check it out. I think it's along your palate. That's the importance of retention. So it's making sure that you're always keeping points of contact to them directly. And that is the essence of digital marketing. So remember, understanding the mindset of your consumers, understand what makes them tick, understand what makes them buy, come and visit you. Learning what platforms and what technologies and methods to go after these new people. Making sure that you're having a genuine relationship, empathy, compassion, communication, and relationship. Those are all key things to consider, and then also ensure that you're going after the equal balance of acquisition and retention. Thank you. Now, before we continue, I know we've got like 5 minutes, so I want to quickly jump into Q&A. Is there anything that we could dive into that would be helpful for people in this room, not just so much a small problem, but hey, this is the wider thing I'm trying to solve for my marketing that would be relevant to this demographic? Any thoughts, any ideas? No? Okay. Oh, yeah, cool.
What is a good customer acquisition cost?
Oof.
For a restaurant in Wellington?
Okay, so I'm not from Wellington, so I don't know that data off the top of my head. It really depends. I think, yeah, I don't know the exact numbers, this is not my day-to-day, but what I would be advising is trying to figure out what makes sense for your business. So I wouldn't be going, here's a gold standard to be targeting. I'd be going, okay, based on my business costs, right? So if I sell, my average meal costs $80, well, okay, so then out of that $80, okay, how much is the ingredients? So let's say we're going down to, it's actually $60 in terms of margin. Then you've got to pay staff, so that's, okay, let's say that you're down to $45, your overheads, all that. So you need to figure out what's left over. So then if you go, look, that's my top end, and then you would want to probably halve that. I think that's probably a good target to start with. Obviously much less is ideal, but making sure you calculate your business costs, because if you've got a cafe, your cost per acquisition, if you're spending $10 for a $5 coffee, not ideal. If you're selling a $500 main versus a $5 main, the difference. So it really depends.